Right, thank you. Good morning. Vanakkam. Dr. V.R.S. Sampath, President of Madras Development Society. Dr. Java Malai, former Principal Advisor to the DG of UNIDO and our chair of this session. My senior colleague and my mentor, Ambassador Mahalingam. His Excellency Mahalingam has been a great source of support for me all these years, and I'm very grateful for his introduction earlier today. Fellow distinguished panelists, my colleague Karthikeyan, Indian High Commissioner to Fiji, captains of Indian industry and business, and also those from Tamil Nadu. I'm happy to join the 8th World Tamils Economic Conference held in this hybrid mode. We are meeting in the midst of a corona variant, a new variant, Omicron, spreading at a faster pace than its previous variants. It's been over 2 years, the world has been grappling with the multidimensional effects of COVID-19, in particular on health of individuals and on the economic growth of countries. Globally, the national governments are coming to terms with the COVID-19 and finding ways to live with COVID while taking steps to ameliorate its serious negative impact on the individuals and the national economies. I think we couldn't have heard a better articulation than what Dr. Java Malai has just briefed us and told us about 4 L's, which will help make this world a much better place for individuals as well as for countries. Life, livelihood, lifestyle, and liberating with the virtual world. I think that's a very brilliant way of putting it. Friends, in India, we have seen several transformative initiatives launched by the central government as well as many state governments, including the state government of Tamil Nadu. Our topic of discussion today has a direct bearing on how the governments are reacting to the spread of COVID-19. Before I proceed further, it is important to set the context as I will be speaking about investment and business opportunities between India and Malaysia. Friends, Malaysia hosts the second largest Indian diaspora of 2.77 million or 27.7 lakh people, constituting about 8% of Malaysia's population. About 80% of the persons of Indian origin are Tamil speaking and trace their roots to Tamil Nadu. Equally important is a strong people-to-people connect that remained very vibrant over the last several decades between Malaysians of Indian origin and Tamil Nadu in diverse sectors, be it economic, commercial, cultural, and education sectors. This places Malaysia in a very unique position for Tamil Nadu. Friends, before I come to the bilateral trade and investment scenario, let me touch on the state of Malaysian economy. Many of you would be aware, Malaysia has been one of the top 20 trading nations in the world for many decades. In a sense, the trade contributes significantly to the country's GDP. The trade to GDP ratio is over 115%, and its exports contribute to 65% of its GDP. And it's a country which has enjoyed fairly good trade surplus, and I think in 2020 they had about $45 billion of trade in their favor. Well, COVID-19 has impacted all countries, so also in Malaysia. And Malaysian economy is contracted by about 5.6% last year, that is 2020. And because of COVID, as I said earlier, and also due to near lockdown situation for several months during the year. However, this year in 2021, Malaysia is expected to register a 5 to 6% growth. And Malaysian exports have so far during the year registered a healthy growth of 25%. And this is largely due to domestic relaxations and external trade and external demand that's growing. Exports have significantly benefited from high price of the commodity-based products, which contribute significantly to Malaysia's exports. As restrictions began to ease, the economic activity in Malaysia is picking up, as we can see it driven by higher consumption, higher trade and policy support. In fact, the travel restrictions are also being gradually relaxed, particularly in the domestic sector. And in fact, as we speak, they're also trying to open some parts of the international travel for international tourists. And this is also likely to spur greater revenue earning, because Malaysia is dependent on tourism for a significant amount of its foreign exchange. Friends, coming to India-Malaysia relations, particularly we're talking today focusing on the trade and investments. Malaysia is India's third largest trading partner in the ASEAN region, which is the region of 10 countries, as you all know. And India figures among the top 10 trading partners globally for Malaysia. In fact, our bilateral trade rose to close to $17 billion in 2018 and 19. And it remained over or about $15 billion during the last 2 years, despite the COVID. This year, the impact of COVID likely to remain on the overall trade that we have with Malaysia. But I strongly believe that there is a greater potential to grow despite the setbacks, particularly due to the factors which I'm going to illustrate a little later. Particularly in the context of Malaysia, we have our government of India has set a target of $9 billion of exports for the current financial year. And we are working with the leading chambers of commerce from Malaysia and India to realize this target. And it is in this context that the conference that you are having today, I'm sure will also add some bit of value, as I said, because of the extremely strong connectivity between Tamil Nadu and Malaysia. Our trade basket with Malaysia is quite diverse, with a vast potential to increase further. India's export of engineering goods is growing significantly in the recent years, apart from exports of electrical machinery and equipment, apart from also organic chemicals, minerals, and mineral oils. Given the strong presence of Tamil-speaking diaspora in Malaysia, I think this conference can play a catalytic role in improving trade between Tamil Nadu and Malaysia. I welcome the participants in this event to liaise with the Indian High Commission in Kuala Lumpur and understanding better the business opportunities in Malaysia once the event is over. Several estimates indicate that, as I was mentioning earlier, Malaysian economy is set to grow in this year close to 5 to 6%. And recovery of economic activity is expected to continue in 2022, backed by resumption of businesses. Why I'm saying this? Because the domestic sector has largely opened up in Malaysia. There is an improvement in labor market, with the Malaysian government allowing more and more foreign labor to come into the country, and gradual expansion of both domestic and external trade. Disrupted supply chains and rise in material costs continue to remain a challenge, which I'm sure will gradually be addressed in the coming days. This country, Malaysia, has very high vaccination rates. 97% of the adult population has been vaccinated, and 78 or about 80% of the overall population is also vaccinated. And this is indeed helping the country to look at more relaxations to various sectors of the economy. Friends, Malaysian government is also launching a big-time startup ecosystem. And in fact, they've launched what is called as the Startup Ecosystem Roadmap, which is called SUPER, for the decade, which is starting 2021 to 30, to promote innovation. And they also target to place Malaysia among the top 20 global startup ecosystems. As you know, India is the world's third largest startup growing in the country. And we have about 40,000 active startups. And I am sure Tamil Nadu is also playing a leading role in having these startups in different parts of the state. So looking at this, I see great potential and an opportunity for collaborating in this segment with Malaysia. Renewable energy is another area where Malaysia is going to pay a lot of attention. particularly because, as you all know, the Glasgow, recently the COP summit which took place, where Malaysia has pledged to reduce emissions to 45% of the GDP by 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality by 2050. And in this context, the renewables are going to contribute, which are now contributing about 18% in their energy mix, which is the primary energy mix. It is likely to increase to 40% by 2035. And given the vast expertise that Indian companies have, and I know many of the companies based in Tamil Nadu have also ramped up renewable energy capacities. And I see there's great potential for these companies to look at Malaysia for both in terms of improving their presence and also looking at joining the Malaysian companies to develop this sector in their areas. Again, there is great scope for collaboration in the focus areas identified by the 12th Malaysia plan, which was announced last month, which is, as you know, they have a 5-year Malaysia plan of now for the period 2021 to 25. And in this context, the government here has decided to improve investments in the R&D from 2.4% by 2025 from the current of 1% of the GDP. So this would open a lot of opportunities for investments in several sectors. And in this context, electrical and electronic sector is one which is of significant importance to Malaysia. And we could look at possibly contributing in this area. Another area I look at it is improving automation and moving towards Industry 4.0 in various sectors. And in this context, there will be improved use of data exchanges. And this area is also very important as I see for collaboration. And one last area also I look at it in our assessment, digitalization or digitization is a very important element in the 12th Malaysia plan. And in this, the government of Malaysia is looking at attempting to digitize data, processes, business methodologies to improve efficiency, especially for small and medium enterprises. There's been a lot of emphasis on the SMEs in Malaysia. And Indian companies with expertise in digitization, they have an important role to play. And I'm sure Tamil Nadu, which is having a leading charge in digitization, would be able to play again because of the proximity and connectivity to people contact. One last word I would like to have before I conclude is on the investments. In fact, India and Malaysia, we have a very strong investments presence. Indian investments in Malaysia is over 2.6 billion. We have over 150 Indian companies already present here. And at the same time, Malaysia's investments in India is about $1.1 billion over the years. So there is a lot of potential, as I see it, for promotion of investments on both sides. In this context, as I've been saying, I see a great potential for companies in Tamil Nadu to partner with their Malaysian counterparts and do good both the state of Tamil Nadu and India on one side and Malaysia. I thank the organizers of the event for inviting me to this event. Before I conclude, I wish to suggest that given the strong connect that we have between Tamil Nadu and Malaysia, if we could plan a special business event sometime in mid next year, and we in the Indian High Commission will be very happy to assist by connecting you with the relevant chambers of commerce and as well as with other partners whom you desire. And with these words, I thank you all. And also, once again, I thank my mentor, His Excellency, Mr. Mahalingam, for being a guide and inspiration to me all these years. Thank you.